Hello everybody, it's John here from the esports department. We're going over the LPL 2021 summer, and this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the best seasons of one of the best leagues that we've ever seen. And spring 2021 was very similar. The LPL just has an absurd amount of talent, an absurd amount of great teams. And even like some of the like mid of the table teams are teams that could technically come back and win the LPL this season. Um, Without knowing how the metagames are going to change and what things we're going to see, there's like legitimately at least 6, if not up to 10 plus teams that are live to win the LPL this season. Obviously, there's the ones that we think of as more being favorites right now, but this is just such a competitive league. There hasn't been an absurd number of roster swaps, so maybe it won't take too long, even though there's so many teams here. But it's just going to be a great league this season, I think. This is going to be... The LPL is by far my favorite product to watch in League right now. So many teams with singular identities, teams that play the way they play, that you can't even really find other teams that are that comparable to them. Teams that have their own pocket picks, teams that have stylistic differences. Just super, super fun league to watch. And if you're not already watching heavily in the LPL, I would get watching the LPL. It's fantastic. That said, we're going to go team by team. We're going to talk about the rosters. Then we're going to move forward. We're going to talk about futures betting in the LPL as it relates to Bovada anyway. Starting off with BLG. We're not 100% sure on the BLG jungler. Meteor and Weiwei are both there. Other than that, they're sticking with Bubu, Zika, Aiming, and then PP God comes in at support. So PP God, a great split followed by a kind of mediocre split for PP God, but should be an upgrade for BLG. BLG is a team that has consistently underperformed with talent in the last like 2.5 years. Every year I look at BLG's roster and go, this is a team that could really make an impact in the league. And every year they let me down, and they come somewhere between like 8th and 12th every single time. And I always think it's a team that can get something done. And unfortunately I kind of have to say, once again, this looks like a team with talent that could get something done. I think PP God and Aiming is a pretty strong bot lane. I could see them being one of the better bot lanes in the league if things went well for them. I thought Zika was pretty good last split. Bubu has held his own in the top lane. Meteor and Weiwei are both junglers that have, I have some level of respect for. I talked before about in our Discord about Meteor and Weiwei. I think Weiwei is the more consistent of these two junglers. Meteor has had the higher highs, so I'm not sure which way they'll decide to go with these two. But either way, I think it makes for the team being pretty solid and upgraded again from last season. But like I say, it seems like BLG upgrades from last season every single split, never lives up to what I'm hoping from them. So hopefully this is the breakout split for BLG, but I'm a little hesitant. It seems like the organization, coaching staff, just whatever's going on in this team seems like it constantly keeps BLG from being a higher quality team in the league. So that's what's going on with BLG. Over to EDG. I don't think we'll see many changes from EDG. Flandre playing in the top lane. They have Zhao Zhang, but I think we'll see Flandre. GG in the jungle, Scout in the mid lane, Viper at AD carry, and Mako at support. Now they have Hope still. I don't know if Viper was so good last split that it's pretty hard to imagine them using Hope, but Hope was an absolute stud when he played too. I don't know if maybe they could use Hope to get some trade pieces somewhere. I'm not even really sure what you upgrade. The jungle, I guess. GG wasn't over the top insane, but they also have Junjie and Clearlove just sitting in the back pocket if they ever need to use those two. So hard to say exactly. I assume it'll be GG at least to start, but hard to say for sure for EDG. Team should be very good. Another off season of synergy. To go back to some terms I used in the LCS video, though, EDG does strike me as a team that has more ways to go down than up. They had their guys performing mostly at fantastic levels last split. GG, I think maybe there's a little room for improvement from GG. But other than that, it seems like they have more downside in the chance that Scout falls off a little bit or Mako falls off a little bit. Guys that have been in the league for a while, it's not like getting old actually makes you worse at League of Legends, but sometimes if you came up in a different era When the new eras come through, sometimes those guys don't handle it as well as some of the guys that are a little newer to the game. So it's possible we could see a little fall off from Scout and Mako, as legendary as both those two are. But you expect this team to just stay very strong and be a top 6 team in the league for sure. Moving over to FPX, not a lot of changes for them. Nuguri staying in the top lane, Doinby, LWX, Crisp. They picked up a backup bot laner in River. Not sure if they'll end up using him or not. Probably not, at least to begin with. In the jungle, they've stated that Tian is going to be the guy. Bo is going to be back and able to play again, but they've stated that Tian is going to be the guy to begin with. That makes sense to me. I would stick with Tian for now. Their run in the playoffs was absolutely meteoric until the very end. I think they're going to want to try to repeat that success, and if they need somebody later, they can go and try out Bo or try out River, but I would expect them to just come out with Crisp, LWX, Doinby, Tian, and Nuguri, and that lineup is one of the top lineups in the league. You'll see where I place them on power rankings when we get to the power rankings in a minute, but obviously one of the top teams in the league. Not a lot changing from the team that was crushing the playoffs until the finals. Over to Invictus Gaming. A lot going on with Invictus Gaming right now. In the top lane, they're going to have to start the season with Nenny. Nenny comes from IG Young, their academy team. The Shy is having, I believe, visa issues, and they're going to have to start with Nenny. I kind of worry for the Shy that if Nenny does a decent job here, that we may not see the Shy again, only because their style was so the Shy focused. It was Rookie and the Shy focused, but so the Shy focused, and they've been on a downturn, obviously, for success. They have not had a lot of success recently. If Nenny comes in and complements the other pieces well, and they play more through the bot lane, or they play more through the jungle mid, and Nenny just holds his own up there, I have a slight amount of worry that the Shy might come back and they might go, this Nenny thing's working out kind of well. I could see that. The Shy also probably being a pretty powerful trade piece if they ever wanted to trade him. But they're going to start with Nenny. In the jungle, they have Ning and Zun, but I imagine we'll just see Zun. He's their young, hot prospect and arguably one of the best players on the team last split. So I imagine we'll see Zun. No reason to have anybody except for Rookie in the mid lane. No surprise there. At AD carry, they have Puff, Snow, and Wink. Hard to say exactly who we'll see there, but I'm going to go with Wink for the majority of the season. Sometimes we've seen the starting rosters for these teams, but it doesn't necessarily tell us who we think we'll see more of throughout the course of the year. I think we might see more of Wink throughout the course of the year than anyone else. At support, Baolon and Lucas. Lucas seems like the guy that they're going to be trying to get as the main guy. They might start with Baolon, but I think Lucas is probably where they're trying to go long term. They do have Southwind there as well, but I think Lucas is the guy that they're trying to focus towards. I suppose we'll find out. This seems a little jumbled to me for IG. This feels like maybe another fall-off season. I think they need to clear out some garbage here. They have a lot of people on the roster that they're not going to play, or a lot of people that switch back and forth in practice and switch back and forth in games. To get it right, I think they need to find a core of 5 guys that they're going to play every match for a little while and get things focused down. With Nenny coming in, I could see them having some success, trying out a different style to begin with, but we'll have to see how it goes. The Shy, when he comes back, me personally, as a huge fan of IG, I hope they just go back to playing the Shy rookie ball, but I'm not sure that's going to be good enough. I mean, from a fan perspective, I hope they go back to it because it's just so much fun to watch. But I'm not sure they're going to have that much success with it. The LPL is just so full of talent now. It's tough to just out-talent people the way that the Shy and Rookie used to do when you're playing against the Nuguri Doinby combination, or playing against the Zumi Gao combination, or playing against the 369 Knight combination. It's harder to just outskill people, and there's so many teams in the league that you have to do that to if you want to compete with that strategy. I think we might see another middle-of-the-table performance from IG here, maybe even falling out of the playoff race if things go poorly for them this year. Not super excited for them, but of course they have winning upside. I think less winning upside than a lot of the other teams that are in this top conversation, but they always have winning upside when you have that kind of talent. Going over to JDG, we have Zoom, Kanavi, Yagao, Loken, and Lumao. a couple backups on the squad, LPC and Mystic at 80 carry. We could see them. I thought Logan had a pretty good split overall last split. I don't necessarily think there's any reason to look away from him at the moment. And the rest of the team, this is just your classic JDG. For me, with JDG, I think a lot of it is meta dependent. A lot of whether or not this is a really strong team is meta dependent. I do think their spring fall off had something to do with their underperformance at Worlds and the way that they felt about their underperformance at Worlds. I hope they've cleared their heads coming into this season because this is one of my favorite teams in the LPL and a team that I think just has so much talent that I hope that the mental is good and they can just come in and crush. This is another one of those top 6 teams that just is 100% going to be in the running to win the title at some point. I would be blown away if this wasn't a top 6 team at the end of the split. Moving over to LGD. Colt in the top lane, Kui in the jungle. Zabe has been added to the mid lane. ZA didn't get to see much playing time, so he's moved over to LGD. He'll be playing with Kramer in the bot lane. And then they have Chance and Mark down at the support role. This is just a lineup that has 3 prospects that we haven't seen like anything too impressive from, and 2 veterans that we haven't seen much impressive from recently either. Just a fairly low talent roster for LGD. You could do worse than Kramer and ZA as your 2 carries, but I don't think they're winning the carry battle against any of the like decent to higher level opposition in the league. We saw flashes from Colt and Kui, but nothing to make me think that these are going to be guys that we're going to have in our top 5 top laners, top 5 junglers conversation coming towards the end of the season. Just seems like a team that's trying to get by, and I don't like what they're doing with their roster at the moment. For me, I think picking up ZA lets me know what they think they're doing this season, which is trying to get some wins, because I don't think you pick up ZA if you're looking to rebuild. I kind of like looking at guys like Colt and Kui and Chance, and giving those guys a chance to see if you can find a superstar from the lower ranks, but this just makes me feel like they think that ZA is what's going to bring them to the promised land, like to get some wins this season and maybe get in the playoffs, and I just don't think there's any chance of that with this roster. So not a fan of what LGD's got going on at the moment. I wish they would just have gone into a full rebuild, pick up a mid laner from the LDL. Just try to find something for next season. If you want to stick with Kramer as your guy, I would trot Kramer and 4 rookies out there. You could keep Colt and Kui if you want to see them again, but Kramer and 4 younger guys, and see if you can find somebody that's going to be the future cornerstone of your organization, because nothing here appears to me to be that. Moving over to LNG, running out the same thing. Ale with Makuya as a backup, Tarzan in the jungle, Icon, Light, and Iwandi. I think you're going to see a very similar performance in summer that you saw from this team in spring. I think they are a team that is going to beat teams that are worse than them almost every time, and have a very hard time beating teams that are better than them. And that's going to put them somewhere in the middle of the table. I'm a big fan of this team because I like Icon. He's like one of my favorite players. Ale, one of my favorite players. Tarzan, a guy that I love watching. I want this team to be successful, but it just felt... I wanted to say last split that I thought that they could compete talent-wise with some of the top teams, but when I watched those matchups in spring, the Icon talent level is just not there right now. The Tarzan talent level is not quite there right now. Iwandi, I think, is good, but not of that tier. I do think Light has had some really great performances. This team is just like a tier, a half tier below all the rest of the top teams in talent level. And maybe if they could make some jumps in the offseason here, they could compete to maybe win a title. But I think it's likely that we're going to see a repeat performance from them, middle of the table, crushing all the bad teams, getting crushed by all the good teams. A little unfortunate, because I really like this team, and I feel like you could push them over the line with a pickup at almost any position, because I feel like everybody on this team is a very good but not elite player. Like Ale, very good top laner that a lot of teams could pick up and upgrade their top lane. Tarzan, good jungler, a lot of teams could pick up to add to their jungle. Icon would improve a lot of teams' mid lane. Like literally every player on this team is an above average, in my opinion, but not excellent, like not superstar at their position. So you got a team of good, above average guys but none of them are guys where you could go like, ooh, if this guy went to FPX, that'd be a sweet, like a sick upgrade, or if this guy went to top esports, it'd be a sick upgrade. They're just a little bit below the level of the superstars, which is unfortunate, but I really like this team. I hope they have some success this season. I really do. OMG, mostly the same team. A couple just the slight changes. New in the top lane, Aki in the jungle. Wooming is still there in the mid lane, but they add Cream, who comes from Oh My Dream, which is the OMG LDL team. In the bot lane, they have Eric, Kane, and Abel. Three players there. Not sure who we'll end up seeing here. It felt like they were pivoting towards trying to make Kane the guy at one point, but it's hard to say exactly what they're doing with their 80 carries. At support, they have Cold, and this is just a team that is in full rebuild mode, and unfortunately, they're kind of a step in. Oh, sorry about that. They're kind of a step into their rebuild and still haven't really hit anything. Like, you know, when I'm talking about doing a rebuild, I'm talking about grab 5 rookies, put them together, see who's good, get rid of the guys that aren't, keep the guys that are. This is a team that's picked up the rookies, put them in there, and they're trying to decide right now if they have anybody that's good, because they had such a terrible performance last season. They did have some wins, you know, that they can look back on and try to figure out what they were doing right, but it feels like maybe they haven't hit a heavy jackpot with anybody. Like, New was pretty solid. I could see him being there. Like, I think anybody on this team could be the 5th best player on an LPL, on a solid LPL team. Maybe even the 4th best player on like a solid LPL team. But I'm not sure they have anybody here who could be a top 3 player or a top 2 player on a good LPL team. And that's the problem. They don't really have anybody that I would be like, you got to get rid of this guy. But they also don't really have anybody that I was like, this is your cornerstone that you build around. I think it's going to be a tough split for OMG. I do. So we'll just have to see where they go from here. But I think it's going to be a really tough split. Moving on to Rare Atom. Cube, Aches, and Leon in the jungle. I imagine it'll be Leon as a standard. Cube, Leon, Fofo, iBoy, Hung, Maestro as a backup. Same team as last season. I'm hoping that we get a pretty good season out of these guys, because they've been like a good stock, this Rare Atom team. They've been up, but not to the moon. It's just been up and sideways a little bit, and up a little bit, and sideways a little bit. A slow climb. Hasn't been like they've been blowing the roof off, but they've been getting better every time, and I think you're going to see a solid playoff team here probably, or right around that area. Rare Atom's a good team. I think they'll probably take another very tiny step forward this season, and we'll see how things go for them. If I was going to upgrade a position, it would probably be support or 80 carry. I think Fofo, Leon, Cube is pretty solid for the future. I'd probably change a member of the bot lane if I was going to change anything about this team. Okay, Rogue Warriors with some of the best names in the league added on. In the top lane, they have 89-17. I love the number named people, and I love that it seems that it's become like a top lane tradition. 89-17 comes from RW Sharks, the Rogue Warriors LDL team. He was also on AHQ at one point. They keep Haro in the jungle, a favorite in the Discord. Haro, kind of maybe a superstar jungler. He's definitely had some games that he's been extremely good, but he's also had games where he's complete dog shit. But it's kind of hard to say which one is the real him, given he's always been on terrible teams for the most part since he's been here as well. Next, they get Ice Coke, which has to be my new favorite player, also coming from Rogue Warrior Sharks. I'm hoping that Ice Coke just takes over the league, but given that he's sitting behind Haro, it's probably not going to happen. I'm guessing Haro stays the starting jungler for this team. Then they have Forge, Betty, and Kaijuan. Interesting with Rogue Warriors, they do kind of have a low-level embarrassment of riches, and that Chocho has seemed like a very playable support, and Zwuji at one point was the hottest commodity in the entire league. Now they have Betty and Kaijuan kind of playing over them. Could maybe do something with these two. We might end up seeing them back and forth. It feels like Betty is going to be the guy they're going to stick with for the main part, though. Forge, back and forth. I think he's kind of a lower level but LPL quality asset. Nothing too exciting about this team. I'm hoping they're just trying to figure out if 8917 or Ice Coke or Zwuji and Chocho are coming in. I don't think they're going for wins this season, and I don't expect them to get that many of them. That said, I hope Ice Coke turns out to be the best player in the league. That's what we need. Moving over to Royal Never Give Up. Most people probably know everything there is to know about Royal Never Give Up, given that they just finished winning MSI. What do I expect from Royal this season? A very good season. That said, I don't expect them to be the best team in the league in summer. I think this is really realistically more like a 4th place team or a 3rd place team or a 5th place team than it is a winning team. I think Gala, for me right now, is the superstar of this team. And Wei was the best jungler in the LPL in spring, but even given that information, I think Gala is the one that we've seen recently as probably the biggest star. Xiaohu has kind of turned from needing to do everything for this team to being able to chill a little bit more and just hold his own. They still are going to play heavily towards him, but I'm kind of impressed that the way this team has transitioned from everything must be Xiaohu focused to a little bit more of we can incorporate other people and just have Xiaohu hold up. Give me just 2 seconds, guys. I hate to leave just in the middle of a video, but give me just 2 seconds real quick. Sorry about that. I could cut and paste and edit 2 videos together, but I think like a 20-second gap is probably just a little bit better than taking 45 minutes to sew the video together. So, this team, I think you're definitely looking at a playoff contender. You're looking at a team that's probably going to be in a match to decide if they make the finals. That said, I don't think we're going to see RNG win summer 2021. Some meta shifts could change that. I think the MSI meta was not great for RNG, and they won. So, that says a lot for you. But I've said the whole time that I thought when we came back in summer there was going to be some other teams that were probably going to outperform RNG in summer, and I'm sticking with that theory for now. Suning Gaming, a favorite of a lot of people, especially after their big Worlds run. No real changes. Bin, SOFM, Angel, Huanfeng, On, and then they have Awesome as a backup bot laner. There have been some comments about Huanfeng possibly being like kind of a not great teammate, not a great person to have on your squad. So if that's the case, maybe this is a possibility that they might actually use Awesome at some point. I imagine that Huanfeng definitely has the starting job locked down for this team, unless there's some sort of backstage drama. So just the same old Suning. I expect a pretty similar performance from them. Maybe without the resurgence at end of season. They started off last season like very bad and then transitioned and were very, very good by the time that the playoffs rolled around. They had like a spike in the last like 3-4 weeks. I think maybe we see like a slower spike and have them be more of a middle of the range team rather than a terrible team and a great team. Just see them a little bit more solid and middle of the road moving forward. WE, a team that's definitely worth a little bit of talking about. They still have Breathe, they still have Beishang, they still have Elk, which is Jumeng, one of my favorite players in the LPL, just changed his name. They still have Missing, and then they've added Mole in the mid lane. They were playing with Shanks, before that with Teacher Ma. A lot of mid lane issues for Team WE over the years. They've decided that Mole is the guy to put in there, and Mole has had some superstar level performances for sure at times. Last split he had some games where he literally felt like a guy on his team trying to drag some corpses across the finish line, and now they're going to put him on WE, a team that I think was very, very good outside of having serious shortcomings in the mid lane. What does that say for WE? I think it's championship contender. Not necessarily like any sort of favorite to win the championship, but I think it's championship contender. I think more important than the mid lane, though, they need Jumeng in form. When Jumeng was in form, I would say Jumeng and Missing was probably the best or among the best bot lanes in the league. I would have pegged the WE bot lane to crush like the top esports bot lane. when they were at their peak, but lately, in the last split in particular, Jumeng did not have that impressive of a split. They need him to come back. They need him to be an MVP caliber AD carry. It'll make me so sad if he falls off and just becomes a mediocre player, because I loved watching me some Jumeng. So with Jumeng in form, you've got a championship contender here in Team WE, I think. Top Esports, 369 in the top lane. Xingqian put up behind him there, but I doubt we'll see anybody over 369. Then Karsa, Knight, Jackie Love, and Zhuo. Yuyan just still on the roster, but Zhuo seems to be the guy they're going to at the moment. The question for this team is, are they going to get better or worse from the end of last season? Because this was most people's #1 team power ranking wise in spring, and they had a disappointing playoff despite looking like the best team in the league for the rest of the year. Are they going to come back better or worse? Jackie Love was starting to be a bit of a problem towards the end of the season. Karsa had some times where he was a problem. 369 had some issues against some of the better top laners in the league. Is everybody going to take a step forward? It almost feels like this is like the entitled team of the LPL, I kind of feel like, where they feel like they're entitled to get some victories because we've got so much talent on our team here. Maybe they're not practicing as hard. I mean, I'm not saying this in real life. I don't know anything about these guys. Just how it feels to me when I watch them is that they don't feel like they come in as prepared as some of the other teams. They feel like they make silly mistakes more often than some other teams, but they just have such a crazy level of talent that it's really hard not to rate them, in the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. So it's hard for me to say whether or not this team's going to get better going into summer. I hope that they have a resurgent performance and we get to see these guys go to Worlds, because Top Esports is a really fun team to watch with a lot of talent. So I'm predicting we'll see a bit of a bounce back from Top Esports in summer. And it's hard to bounce back from, being a top 4 team in the league. It's not like you really need to bounce back from that. But for Top Esports, you kind of do. So we'll see how it goes. Now we're dealing with 3 in a row of kind of shit shows here. Thunder Talk Gaming. In the top lane, Chalitzi and Longji comes over there. I don't know why Longji would want to be on this team. I don't know why this team would want Longji. It doesn't make any sense to me as a roster move to have Longji on this team. That said, the jungle, Xiaopeng. So at least Xiaopeng's got the jungle job locked down. In the mid lane, Sky, Twilla, and Ye. Ye, I don't know a ton about. Sky and Twilla we've seen before. Nothing exciting coming out of either of those spots. Sam D has the bot laner spot locked down, and Sam D, since leaving that original team, it was Victory 5, right? God, why can I not remember this? He was on the Victory 5 squad, right? That made the Miracle run. Am I crazy? Sorry, when I talk about 2,000 players in a row, yeah. When I talk about 2,000 players in a row, sometimes the history starts to get bleached up. So yeah, Sam D, since he left the original V5 squad that made the Miracle run, for me, has looked like he kind of exposed that he was not the important member of that bot lane, because he has not been super impressive to me anywhere since leaving. At support, they have Patch, Teen, Bless, and then they have VV and Bless being jungle subs, not support subs. Teen supporting Patch, or backing up Patch. Just a jumble. Just a huge jumble for TT. Like, who knows what they're... I mean, I guess they're saying, we think Sam D's our guy, we think Xiaopeng's our guy, let's figure out who we can get out of these other positions. This feels like a team that's going to be going through some serious bumps and ups and downs this season. I doubt you're going to see much out of Thunder Talk Gaming. I don't see anybody on this team where I'm like, that's talent, baby. That's who you need. I mean, Xiaopeng maybe is like a pretty talented player. Even Longji, if they play him, has been mediocre at best in the last few years after being one of the best players in the league for a little while. This team is just, there's a whole lot of people without a whole lot of talent. So we're going to have to see what they decide. Maybe Patch ends up the starting support, I'm guessing. Twilla probably ends up the mid laner, maybe Sky. And if they're smart, they'll just play Chalitzi. But I mean, it's not like Chalitzi's some sort of spring chicken either. They don't even have a top lane like prospect. This team, I just don't really know what they're doing, and that doesn't seem good to me. So I'm very much out on Thunder Talk Gaming. But Thunder Talk Gaming is glad that they have themselves slotted in right next to Ultra Prime, because I am very much not in on Ultra Prime. Z's in the top lane, Hacker in the jungle, Irma in the mid lane, along with Xiao Caobao, and SMLZ and Xiaoxi in the bottom lane. This is the worst thing you could do, just my opinion. They have a team here of mostly guys who have been around for a little while and sucked. And Xiaoxi, who was quite good last time, so I guess building around Xiaoxi is not the worst idea. The rest of the team, Hacker, SMLZ, Irma, Z's. I mean, Z's had some moments, so he's maybe not the worst. But Hacker, Irma, Xiao Caobao, I don't know much about. SMLZ. This is like a rebuild that's like, if you're trying to like rebuild the nursing home, this is a team that can do it. Well, they probably can't. They wouldn't be able to pick up the timber, but this is a team that can be rebuilt from the nursing home. SMLZ and Hacker just can't be on your rebound team. That's all I'm saying. That's basically what I'm coming here to say. Hacker and SMLZ cannot be on your rebuild. They're not only are they veterans, but they're not even good veterans. They should have just gone all in here, I think. Just keep Rat, let Rat stay, get a different jungler, save yourself some money, and completely go, straight to the well on who you're going to pick up, instead of trying to half-ass this and go. They don't even have a prospect here. Like, there's nobody on this team that is new, like, to the league that they can try out. I just don't get what they're trying to do. This team's going to be bad. They're going to be one of the worst, if not the worst team in the league, in my opinion. And Xiaoxi is pretty good, so that's saying quite a bit. Just, I feel bad for the Ultra Prime guys. And then we go from an example of how to not do a rebuild into an example of how to do a rebuild. And I like this one quite a bit. You have Invincible. This is Victory 5. They pick up Invincible. They just purged, by the way. If people didn't, they just purged and just decided we're just starting over, boys. And I like what they did. Invincible, coming from V587, their challenger team. Jug God coming from FPX Blaze. PZX coming from LNG's Academy team, I think. Yeah, LNG Academy. Uniboy, who we all know, a former player from the PCS. A reasonable guy to have as a building block for the future. Kepler at 80 carry from SDX Gaming. And Ziff, who is from BLG Junior. This seems like the right way to go about this kind of rebuild. They pick a veteran guy who they think has some upside in Uniboy, and then they say, we'll let these other guys, we'll surround him with some other prospects, and we'll see if we can find anybody good. I like this a lot, and I think they're going to be good. Like, I think they're going to be better than Ultra Prime, and they're all rookies. That's all you need to know. Like, I just don't understand why teams do this, where they do the Ultra Prime thing, where they just try to put some bad veterans on the team. This is way better. They have one pretty decent or good veteran, and everybody else is a rebuild spot. So I really like what Victory 5 did. It doesn't mean they're going to be good this split. I think they're going to be not one of the best teams in the league. But this is a better way to rebuild your team, and we could see a good Victory 5 next year because of this process. Let me load up the odds, and then I'll bring out... Oh, let me do power rankings first. So how have I power ranked these teams? There it is. What's the best way to do this? Sorry. I should have worked this out better before. So I did go ahead and put FPX in the first spot. I think if FPX, if they hold on to everything they were doing last summer, they were very, very good. And I think that they will continue to be very, very good. I had to put Top Esports in second. Originally, when I did this list, I just did it off of feel, and then I went back and edited it. And when I did this list off of feel, I had JDG in second, man. I believe in JDG. I think they've got a shot at a clean slate here. But in the end, I said, nope, it's too hot takey for the video. People are going to flame me. We'll put Top Esports in the second place spot. JDG in third. You could switch those, and I wouldn't be mad at you. I think JDG has a lot of upside coming into this season. I think Top Esports has a couple different ways they could fall off. But those are the teams I got right there. And then RNG in fourth. I think RNG's, if the meta is good for them in summer, you could look at champions again for RNG. I think we're more likely to see them somewhere in this third to fifth range. WE in 5th place over EDG is probably going to make some people mad. I think WE just has a ton of upside if they click well. I think you could. I might even have put them higher if I knew for sure they were going to click well this split. EDG, I feel like, has a couple different places where they could maybe fall off. Scout and Mako, in particular. Flandre not having a universally amazing season, or Viper not having like an MVP level season could drop them down as well. You know, I mean, we had Jumeng play at a very basically MVP level, and then last split he just wasn't even that good. So if something like that happens to Viper, then EDG's in a lot of trouble. Rare Atom in 7th. I have a hard time putting them any higher. Like I keep saying, this team's just climbing and climbing, but I have a hard time really putting them into this top 6, which is where I think like your legitimate world beaters are. And really, you could extend that all the way down to like 9th and have a pretty reasonable shot at it. IG and Sunning, I wouldn't have any problem if you wanted to switch those two teams. I think those are your 8th and 9th place teams. I think you could switch them if you wanted, Sunning and IG. I'm trying to have some faith in IG here. In fact, in this little group, actually, I think you could kind of switch these however you wanted, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. This is a really tough little set of teams here. I could see BLG sneaking in and grabbing an 8th place spot. But I think there's a big gap between these teams and then everything going on down here. I have Rogue Warriors in 12th. I think they did enough with their roster to get up to 12th. I actually have Victory 5 and 13th. I actually think a young roster like this that's hungry can definitely come out and put up some numbers, and I have them better than LGD, TT, OMG, and Ultra Prime in last place, as we discussed when I was doing that. So let's take a look at Bovadas. Let me load it up on my second monitor here. LPL futures odds, and we'll talk about how those compare to my thoughts. So they have FPX at plus 250, Top at plus 250, RNG at plus 275, EDG at plus 400, JDG at plus 1000, Sunning at plus 1600, WE at plus 25, Invictus plus 28, Rare Atom plus 28, LNG 66, BLG 15,000, LGD 15,000, Ultra Prime 20,000, TT 25,000, OMG 40,000, and then Rogue Warriors and Victory 5 50,000 each. So, their comparisons to my power rankings, FPX, we have them basically in the same position. They have them the most favorite to win along with Top. I have those two teams the most favorite to win, so no changes there. We're looking for teams to have a plus number next to them. Those are where I'm rating them higher than the book. If they have a minus number next to them, the book is rating them higher than me. RNG is a -1, sitting at plus 275. EDG a -2, sitting at plus 400. But there's something I wanted to talk about with these top 4 teams anyway. I personally think you can't bet these top 4 teams. I just don't think you can do it. There's like a legitimate 10 teams that could win the LPL this split, and getting only 2.5 to 1 or 4 to 1 or 2.75 to 1, I just don't even think, I would not even consider betting any of these 4 teams. Too many teams that can come from behind and have an awesome split in the LPL. Too many ways for these teams to fall off. I'm not even considering betting these 4 teams at all. I think they're all pretty bad bets. The first team I consider betting is JDG, and we hit on them in 5th. I have them 2 spots higher than the book does, and you're getting 10 to 1. 10 to 1's right on that barrier of where I'd be willing to touch a team. And JDG's pretty good. I think I'm going to find myself with a very small bet on JDG at that 10 to 1 number. When we see Sunning and WE, those are both spots I wouldn't hate for you to bet if you wanted to bet them. I'm not going to bet Sunning, I don't think, but if you wanted to, I think 1,600 is at least in the range. 2,500 for WE feels automatic. Feels like the best bet on the board to me. Then Invictus at 28 and Rare Atom at 28. If you wanted to touch those, I wouldn't hate touching either of those. I wouldn't hate touching LNG at 66 or BLG at 15,000. I think all these teams have some chance of coming back and having a great split here and winning the league. So I'm more about the mid-range in the LPL because it's just about the odds I'm getting on a whole bunch of teams that I think are technically capable of winning. Sure, BLG looks like a huge underdog to like a top esports right now, but man, there's always some team that looks like a huge underdog a couple weeks, coming into the season, and then 6 weeks in, we're like, man, these guys are really overperformed, and these are the teams that could really do it. I think LNG is probably not super likely to be that team. BLG or Rare Atom feel like a couple teams that really could have a season like that. WE, Invictus. So I think this mid-range is where you want to put some bets. If you wanted to do something like unit on JDG, unit on Suning, unit on WE, unit on Invictus, unit on Rare Atom, unit on BLG, unit on LNG, and just go, you know what, we've got 7 units in play there. If any of these teams win, I win 3 units and just play the entire middle of the table. I wouldn't hate that idea. These probably are your 4 most likely teams to win. So it's going to be less than 50% of the time you're going to make 3 units. It doesn't play out super profitably, so you'd have to think that one of these teams is a little bit better than the book is giving them, or is giving them there. It's kind of up to you how you want to play it. I think you could drop that down to 5 of these teams and probably get a reasonable result out of it with like JDG, maybe WE, JDG, Rare Atom, Invictus, Suning, or something like that. Or cutting one of Invictus maybe and putting in BLG and trying to have some upside on it. There's some places that you can go in this mid-range and try to get value there, I think. The only 2 that for me are going to be bets for sure automatic are JDG and WE. I'll go with those 2 for certain in my profile. So that's all for the LPL, guys. A lot of talking for me. Woke up this morning, went straight into the video. I'm about all talked out. But that's all for the LPL for me. I'll be back over the next couple days with the LCK and the LEC. We'll talk about the futures odds there. It hasn't been great. The book hasn't given us great odds so far. I only liked 1 bet in the LCS, maybe 2, and then here it's kind of the same. I kind of like 2 bets, like nothing super exciting. I wish we had more options, the like to make playoffs, the bottom 3s, the top 3s. I was a big fan of those, and it doesn't look like we're going to be getting those for a little bit here, but that's the LPL. Let me know what you guys think. Hit me up on Twitter at the Esports Plug or find us at the Esports Department. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.